your captain speaking, and we are in part 4 of this series on touring the USA, or the Discover the USA. I'm taking the add-ons and from the Discover USA DLC pack, and we're going to actually run through it. And as you've noticed already, we're changing things up, such as the aircraft. Now, typically they want you to fly. It's the default DLC aircraft that comes with it. I can't remember which one it is, but I want to say it's like the model 18, I think, or something like that. It's an old school aircraft, and we'll probably, for some shorter flights, we'll maybe do that. But I personally don't enjoy flying that aircraft. That's just me. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be doing kind of like a VFR flight. And so I've got SkyVector opened up here, and we've also, and I'll show you, I actually learned just now how to kind of do what I've just done here in FSX for filing my flight plan. So we last landed in Wilkes-Barre, Scranton International. This time we're going up to Buffalo, Niagara, so we might be able to see Niagara Falls. We'll see how that goes. I'm planning for this trip to not cut anything out. So typically on the flights, we get up to cruise altitude for a little bit, see some of the sights, and then I'll pick you guys back up on the landing. I'm not going to do that this time. I'm going to take you the entire way, all the way through uncut, and we'll see how that goes. So what I've done is, yeah, we're going to fly VFR. I put that in quotes. Although, obviously, I'm not familiar with the terrain of this area. So instead of doing a IFR plan, we're going to just do it by VOR navigation. And I've picked a couple of VORs here. So we're going to start, whoops, don't want to change that. We're going to start down here at the Wilkes-Barre, Scranton. And I don't know which runway they're going to have us take off. In fact, we can actually, I can pull this up actually over here. Open this in a new tab, and we'll might as well open the this up in a new tab as well. And so we can see our airport diagram. Come on. Here we go. So we're most likely going to be taking off of 4 or 22. And then for Buffalo, just curious first, I always wonder, yeah, they do have ILS on this as well. And we can go ahead and open this up here. I'm not sure which runway they're going to have us come into. Both of them are obviously long enough for us. And let's see. I'm looking to see if they have anything. We'll worry about, as we get closer, we'll probably pull up the information on the runway that we're approaching, so we know if we have to make a missed approach. If you watched my last video, almost had a mid-air collision. They told me to fly straight in, and apparently they told that to another aircraft, and thankfully I heard the aircraft approaching, and the timing, you can hear me. I'm like, oh crap. And I pull out to a third-person view, and you literally see the aircraft fly right directly over me. I mean, within meters. And of course, they were given primary landing clearance over me, so I was supposed to follow them. Had to wave off, do a go-around, missed approach, all that stuff. Maybe we'll get lucky, and that won't happen this time. I think I've had wave-offs in the past, like 3 landings that we've gone into, which has been just so obnoxious. But hey, I guess that's part of flying. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write this stuff down on my VOR information, just so I have it handy and I don't have to keep switching between this screen and the actual FSX. So we're going to Binghamton. So the first waypoint is going to be CFB, and the frequency is going to be 112.2, and our ideal radial from that is going to be at 350 degrees. Okay, I think I used that term right. Then we're going to go to Geneseo. I guess that's how you pronounce that. So that's GEE. And that's going to be at 108.200. And we're going to go off on about 310 degrees. Okay. And then we're going to come into Buffalo VOR, and that's going to be at 116.4 with a degree of about 287. And then, of course, you know, we'll be close enough to actually see our, contact the airport. And I can already tell right now our airport is Class C based on the red around here. And, we can zoom in here. Let's just take a look at it. So it's surface to 4,700 and 2,200 floor to 4,700 ceiling. So that's the airspace there. Everything else, now we're going to plan to cruise at about 6,500 feet coming out of here. And again, for this one, we're coming out of a tiny little airport right through here. So anyways, so that's going to be the planned flight plan. Now, if I pull this up, and we'll leave this window here because we may have to reference it later, I do have our flight plan right here ready to go. So we're going to click OK. It's the same one that's in FSX. It's probably going to ask me to save it. Yep, VFR, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton. Yep. Yes, we want to do that. Time is fine. So we're flying the Beechcraft Baron 58. We're going to do fair weather because we can't do, they won't let us do VFR if the weather's too bad. Okay. So that's going to be the plan. And I think we're all set. I've got all the information written down, so we can go ahead and start this. I'm really looking forward to this flight. I'm hoping that it's going to be a fun one. Obviously, when you can do more VFR / instrumentation with VOR, there's more hands-on stuff, dialing in frequencies, changing your OBS, versus just sitting there doing nothing. Okay, so here we are at the airport. I'm gonna move some stuff around here because I need to. It's like I've got to reorganize my virtual cockpit here with my flight stick and mouse and keyboard and all of that stuff. Okay, so first thing we'll do, I can just take a look. So here's our aircraft right here. Okay. All right. Yeah, we're at a small gate. Okay. So there we go. I don't know. We'll try it. Yeah, the doors do open. That's pretty cool. I haven't done that on this aircraft before, so we could load up our couple of passengers if we were taking some of them. So let's just get an idea of where we are in the airport. There we are. Pull ourselves out just a little bit. So we're either, again, taking off here or here would be my guess, but we'll find that out once we contact ground and get our taxi clearance and things like that. So, all right. First thing we want to do is I am going to turn on our navigation lights, and that's just going to. Oops, we can't do that yet. My fault. We need the batteries first. Okay. And now we can turn on the navigation lights and they'll come on. Kind of need some battery power in order to do that. The reason why, just to let people know, hey, there's people in the aircraft. The engines aren't running, so we don't need to put the beacon or anything like that up. But just let people know, hey, we're in the aircraft. And next thing we can do is we can tune in to the ground. And,
Wilkes-Barre ground, Beach, Kilo, Juliet, 7881, ready to taxi, touch and go. Beach, Kilo Juliet 7881, taxi 2 and hold short of runway 4 using taxiway pop-up. Contact tower on 120.1 when ready.
Taxi 2 and hold short runway 4 using taxiway pop-up. Beach 881.
Okay. We'll close the door here. Okay. So that's good. We're going to go ahead and start our pushback. I would have thought that I would have had the ability to contact the ATIS and find that information out, but apparently not. So it doesn't matter. It's clear skies. We'll be fine. So, okay. And that's good. Okay, now the first thing I'm going to do, I'm actually going to pause this because I do want to check a couple of things real quick concerning this. So if we're coming off a runway 4, I don't know if I have it in this information here. So we're somewhere down here, so we're just going to have to come down through here and take off. I'm looking for traffic pattern on runway 4. Traffic is left. Okay, that's what I wanted to find out. Okay, so that's good. And the first thing I'm going to do before we get ourselves dialed in here, I can actually go ahead and we'll turn the beacon on and we'll get our engines going. Oops. There we go. Okay. So while those get warmed up, we're going to come into our radio stack and kind of get some things tuned in. So our first one is going to be at 112.2 and 108.2. Our cruising altitude is going to be at 6,500. So we'll get that set. There we go. I'm sorry, 108.2. There's our second. So here's our first VOR. Here's our second VOR. And we're going to... I'll worry about how we come off on this, but I think we'll be okay. Because if we're coming off at runway 4, we are going to be making a left turn anyways to that. So what we'll do is actually, you know what, I want to get the true runway heading. So we are at 044. Okay, so that should be fine. So we're about there, somewhere in there. That's where our runway heading is going to be. Okay, so that is all done. I'm not gonna, the taxi lights don't work on this, so I don't even bother with it. It's clear out. We don't need to worry about our beacon or anything like that. So we've got our, I'm sorry, our strobe lights for right now. I'll turn them on when we get to the runway. Seems pretty calm. So I think the next part is for us to just taxi. I am going to take a quick look. I'll dismiss the radio stack here. At our pitch trim. I just want to make sure that's okay. And I think now we're good to go ahead and start our taxi to runway 4. I don't know. I don't even know. That's weird that it didn't let me contact the ATI, the ATIS. But looks like the airport is rather quiet today. Not much traffic going on. Yeah, it took that turn a little bit too fast. And I'll show you how I handle doing VOR. I've done it multiple times. I've seen other people do it a little bit differently. Hey, there's a gas station on the right. I mean, I can set the radio frequency and I can set my OBS directional. A lot of people, they set that and then they use the heading bug in order to track and keep on course there. I don't. I use the nav radio once I've aligned the OBS indicator, and then I just adjust the OBS to accommodate for things like crosswinds and things like that. To me, that seems a little bit easier than adjusting the heading bug. That's just me. I mean, they are a nav radio for a reason. Why not use it that way? And have the aircraft basically autopilot towards the radio station. So... I do think I'm going to make one change on my heading. I think I am going to go ahead and set it to 350, and I'll manually climb out. Oh wow, that was a nice quick taxi. We were actually a lot closer than I thought from what it looks like. Yep, here we are. And there's the runway. So we are sitting at runway 4. I'm actually going to dial ourselves into about 350, which is somewhere around here. Okay. And let's go ahead and request our get to the tower.
Wilkes Barre Tower, Beach, Kilo, Juliet 7881, ready for touch and go at runway 4.
Put flaps down.
Kilo, Juliet 7881, clear for takeoff. Runway 4, touch and go. Left traffic, approved. Clear for takeoff. Runway 4.
Put our landing lights on, put our strobe on, and release the parking brake, and let's get this show on the road. We are going to be making a left turn anyways to head towards our first VOR, so that's working in our favor. And we can start our pitch, our rotate, and there we go. Positive rate of climb, gear up. A little bit of a left turn. We can pull our flaps up. And that's it. That was actually a very smooth takeoff. And you'll see as we get towards the 350 that the OBS needle is going to start to realign. At least it should, if I have the radios dialed in correctly. Okay. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to autopilot us and set our altitude, navigation, And you'll see what I mean. You can just change our OBS, and there we go. And that's it. So what I've done is I've used my OBS indicator here to line the arrow up. We have a 2 flag. We can see that we are going towards it. We're about 49.4 nautical miles. So the next thing I want to do is I want to change my heading bug to about 310 degrees. So let's see. It's somewhere about there. 310. That'll at least get us in the direction of where we need to get to. There we go. Just increase that. Get our rate of climb going. I am going to, oops, cancel landing intention.
Tower, Beach 881, cancel landing intention. Beach 881, your cancellation is received.
Okay. But everything is going well. I'm going to go ahead and turn off our landing lights for right now. Don't think we need those. Take a look at the out part of our plane here, outside of our plane. You know, I mean, we're in Pennsylvania, so it's going to be just a lot of like rural scenery. It's really nice. You know, I don't see very much in the way of air traffic at all. If I start seeing, you know, more air traffic, then I'll probably request a flight following. But I don't foresee that at this time as needing to do so. I mean, we're clearly visible with the minute amount of cloud coverage that's going on. So, and we'll keep an eye on as we start to approach the Buffalo. So we can keep going here because this is still running. So we've got a little bit of a ways to go to get there. This is obviously not the most direct route, but that's fine with me. It gives us a little bit more to do. We get to see a little bit more. So we are going right through here, and then we'll make that slight turn, that 310 degree turn there to head towards this VOR. And the reason why it's great to also have the headings tuned in, so when we're with about 1 mile or so, 1 to 2 miles out, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the heading bug and make our turn. That way, in case we can't, this is out of range and we can't pick up this navigation radio, we can still be headed in that direction until such time as we pick it up. And then once we do, we can switch over to the nav radio and use the OBS indicator in order for us to get there. You know, that's my way of doing it. You know, I guess everybody's got their own ways of doing it, but for me, that works the best. And we are leveling off at 6,500, which is great. OBS needle still looks good. There we go. Just minor adjustments here and there. I'll pull up the map so you can kind of just see what I'm talking about here. We are, you know, headed on course towards the to the VOR station, which is exactly what we want to be. We're about 39 nautical miles out, and like I was saying before, once we get closer, so within this range here, we'll start looking at nearest airport list to contact Buffalo Niagara so we can ask for clearance to land. And then this will be primarily a manual landing, at least as the lineup goes, unless they're going to give me instructions. But we'll see how that works once we get closer to this area right here. And we may do a visual approach, we may do ILS. The weather is obviously good enough for us to do a visual approach, so I'm not worried about that, at all. But, we are on course. Everything is looking good. And then again, we'll make that switch over. So we've got another 30 nautical miles to go. Like I said, I'm going to keep you guys through this entire flight here, so you can see how I go about doing the full flight with this. Beautiful day out. Really can't complain. But we're tracking perfectly towards where we need to be. Oops. Oh, that should not be there. That should be way up here. I prefer every pilot's, that flies their flight sims has their own way of what they like as far as GPS. I like mine in the upper left corner. I found out I like my ATC up here. But we are making some good time. Everything looks fine. Yeah, we're pushing the engines a little bit, but that'll be okay. But it's just absolutely beautiful outside. The other thing I like about doing a VOR/VFR flight, and now VFR, obviously visual flight rules, to the best of my knowledge, would not include using VOR navigation, I believe. It would be using landmarks and headings and things like that, so you would actually plan it out on a map, old school, figure out based on your compass heading where you have to, what heading you have to go on, and then you look for your landmark, and then you can make your next turn towards your next landmark, and so on and so forth. Our landmarks in this case are the VOR stations, so we are using instrumentation. But one of the things I do like about doing this type of flight versus some of the other flights where you're just doing straight IFR, one, you have not much to do. From once you take off, they tell you, okay, turn here, turn there, and then they say, okay, resume on course, which really just means turn on your GPS and let the aircraft just follow the GPS, and you sit back and you do absolutely nothing. The second thing that is kind of annoying for me is the constant radio chatter that happens with all of the other aircraft that are flying under IFR conditions. And for me, it just becomes intrusive. It's you get interrupted a lot. If it's realistic, it's what would happen. You would have all that radio chatter going on, but it also makes, if you wanted to sim the flight faster, like if I wanted to speed this up 2 or 4 times faster, which we might do that. Then I'm constantly having to pause and switch to acknowledge aircraft, or change course heading, or switch radio station, all these other things, and so it becomes a lot more tedious for me. That's just my own take on it. Now, it doesn't say I don't like to fly IFR. I do like to fly IFR, particularly in bad weather. Obviously, you can't fly VFR in good weather or in bad weather. So for me to be able to fly IFR in like stormy, rainy weather, rely on instruments, rely on ATC, which, again, if you watched my last video, and I put the timestamp in it of when there was almost a collision in midair, when I was trying to approach Wilkes-Barre, Scranton International, that does happen and that does screw up. And I don't think it was me, but I also wonder if it has something to do with the simulation rate that's happening, because I often, when I pause my videos and then pick you guys back up when we're starting to do landing approaches, I don't know if that's what's screwing up and causing ATC to go nutty and make stupid, decisions, or, realistically not even telling me to go around when they know. I mean, I can tell way ahead, like they say, follow aircraft on final. I can already see that aircraft is not going to be able to clear the runway before I actually get ready to land, but I don't get the wave off until I'm like almost on top of the runway. And that's ridiculous. Like, give me the wave off and tell me now go around. They should be able to figure that out. Granted, the stock ATC isn't the best. There are other ones out there. I know this is a new channel and I don't have a lot of viewers or subscribers, but if you do see this and you do like it, if you could, subscribe and give me some feedback on if you play this game a lot, the FSX version. Do you have any good recommendations for an add-on ATC? The other question I have too concerning those is, and this was discussed in a previous video of mine, is the fact that this is a 32-bit application, and because of that it is bound by the amount of memory you have. And the only add-ons that I run are the Rex for enhancements for the graphics, and I have the Discover USA package, which really is not a memory issue. It's just flight plans with another aircraft that came with it. That's it. But when I was trying to do the TAPA sims and add those in for the regions of the US, I kept getting an out-of-memory error, which obviously at the time I didn't realize. Again, my computer has 16 gigs of memory. I'm like, how in the world could I have an out-of-memory error? And then realizing that this is a 32-bit application, and since it's a 32-bit, it's bound by the 4 gigs and can't utilize any more of that. So my question is if I was to pursue one of these additional ATC add-ons, which there's a couple out there.
Cessna November 906 X-ray 11 miles southeast for touch and go. Cessna November 906 X-ray Wilkes-Barre Tower. Make right downwind, runway 4, altimeter 2992.
Would you...
Make right downwind, runway 4, Cessna 58 X-ray.
My question would be, would that influence my memory issue? Because I don't want to spend money on something, find out it doesn't work, and then have, not wonder if I can refund it. At least on Steam, I'm able to refund, my purchases, which Steam was very good about. They refunded every one of the TAPA sims that I had purchased and didn't give me a hassle on it at all. So let me know in the comments if you have any ATC add-ons and what you'd recommend and why, and if you've had any issues with memory concerning that, because I'm assuming that it is going to utilize some of the memory for the game. So but I would like to get a more competent AI ATC. I know that there's one, I can't remember which one it is, but also gives you a co-pilot, which can help with you can designate tasks for them and stuff like that. There's another ATC out there that I know you actually talk to, and it does voice recognition and things like that. I'm okay with not utilizing that one, but if I'm going to dump 50 or 60 bucks on an ATC, I want to know what I'm getting for it. I want to be able to and I don't know if some of these have trials. I got to do some work on that, because if they have a trial, I would in a heartbeat sign up and do a trial on one of those ATCs and see if I like it, see if it works fine, and do those. But again, it's a computer AI, and I guess just like in real life, air traffic controllers and pilots also make mistakes quite a bit. So maybe they purposely built in mistakes into their ATC, so it didn't run perfectly, just to simulate the unknown, human component maybe as best they could. I don't know if that was their design or not, but who knows. Okay, so here we are. We're getting close to our VOR station. The DME tells us we're about less than 8 nautical miles out. Again, probably about 2 or so. We're going to switch our heading over to our heading bug, dial in. We already have our next radio frequency on standby, the 108.2, which you can see right here. And if we do end up picking that up, then we'll go ahead and tune our OBS to that and let the navigation take us to that. But everything is looking good. Oop, a little bit of clouds here as we go through. But just nice, beautiful countryside scenery here. No major cities to speak of. Oh, we got a little Cessna Skyhawk there. Obviously, we're much higher than him, and he's not in any danger being near us. So we're about 4. And again, once we hit about 1.5, 2 or so, I'm going to go ahead and have us make that turn. I mean, it's very calm. Very little air traffic that I can visually see. That Skyhawk was the last one that I saw. And again, I could request a flight following, but again, that involves radio chatter and switching channels. And right now, there's not enough visual air traffic in the area that we're flying that for me warrants it, and the skies are clear enough that I can see any air traffic and avoid it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to switch over to our heading bug, and we'll switch over to our next VOR station. Now see, what I'm talking about. We did not pick this up, so we're too far out of range, but by switching our heading, we can check that. So we want to be at about 310, so we'll go a little bit more. This is where the GPS can come into handy, especially on these analog instruments. There we go. 311, 310. Perfect. And we'll double check that I have the right frequency just in case. So I'm going to just pop over to here. But again, we're probably too far out. .2. Yep. So we just are too far away right now to pick that up because this OBS needle did not change. Once we do pick it up, and we can go ahead and try and listen into the nav1. So we won't get anything, but once we hear the Morse code coming in, then we'll know we have it and we can match it up with the Morse code signature as well. And I'm just going to... I wish I could turn the comm off, but can't do that.
Cessna 58 X-ray, clear touch and go, left traffic, runway 4.
I'm just going to tune out of that. I just don't want to, I don't need to hear about other aircraft taking off from an airport that we are clearly turn back a little bit on our, try and stay as close as we can on it. Now, I don't know if I could, because this is a flight plan, if I could just do a GPS, but I don't want to do that. I want to keep this with just following VOR and doing VOR navigation that way. But see, we're not even registering on the DME at all. But we are 75. You can see on the GPS mapping we're about 75 miles out. So again, I don't know what the range is, but once we hear the Morse code, we'll see the OBS needle change. We can verify the Morse code. As a matter of fact, I think I can do that. Maybe I can do that over here. No. We should be hearing, let's take a look here. Oops. Just take a look at our VOR. So it should be a 2 longs and then ... Okay. That's what we're listening for on this one here. So I'm going to pull us a little bit more to the right. We'll try and stay on this, at least the GPS heading. And just switch, see if that worked. Nope, still not picking it up, so we're too far out. So again, this is a perfect example of setting our headings based off of our VORs, so we can at least head towards it until we can pick up the VOR signal. And again, I'm not seeing very much air traffic at all. So while we wait for this to pick up, we can pick up our discussion on gaming and what seems to be a death to single player games. You know, I had mentioned this in, I think, part 2 when we were heading from Boston to LaGuardia, about how games like Shadow of War, which I played Shadow of Mordor and I absolutely loved that game. That was like a surprise, you know, game of the year that kind of came out of nowhere. And the story was okay. The ending, I'm not going to spoil anything. The last boss fight was less than compelling in my opinion. But everything up to that was awesome. And the thing that I liked about Shadow of Mordor was, well, first of all, the Nemesis system was really cool, and I really liked the way in which you progressed. But I felt like in the beginning, and this is different than a lot of other single-player games, in a lot of other single-player games, you have to level up in order to, you know, attempt new areas or new bosses or new enemies or things like that. I think of something like The Witcher 3. And then you reach those levels and then you're strong enough to take on those types of things. In Shadow of War, or Shadow of Mordor, I'm sorry, it was kind of like a twist on that, and I really liked it because in the beginning your character was very weak, and oftentimes I felt myself having to run from hordes of enemies because I just wasn't strong enough. You know, I could do some of the silence kills or whatever, or some of the warlords if they, you know, could be taken out by like a silent arrow, or, you know, a stealth kill or something like that. You know, those were a little bit more manageable, but to try and take them one-on-one with all of their guards and hordes and stuff, you just weren't powerful enough. But as you progressed, obviously you begin to level up. And I'm going to pull my GPS up here just so we can see how we're tracking. So, just going to switch here on the radio, see if it helps us pick that up. We still haven't picked it up yet. But as you leveled up, you got a lot stronger. And as you got a lot stronger, but the orcs themselves, or the orcs, they didn't seem to get much stronger. And so then you became overpowered, but in a good way. Like now, I didn't have to feel like I had to run from every single encounter. I was strong enough. I had the abilities in order to, handle these big bosses and things like that. So I felt like I caught up to their level, and then I was able to surpass that level. And to me, that's what made it exciting. I felt like I was getting more powerful, and that was showing in the amount of orcs that I was able to fight off, the types of orcs, like the bosses or whatever in the Nemesis system, those types of things. So that's what was really cool for me. And then we get to Shadow of War, which I have not purchased and I will not purchase because of the fact that they decided to put... Okay, there we go. We picked up our DME. So there it was. Listen to it again. I'm going to go ahead and set our OBS needle. So it should have been 2 longs and then 3 shorts. There it was. So now we can switch over to this. Perfect. Okay, I'll get back to Shadow of War in just a minute. So our next, I'm gonna move this in here. Actually, I can just, yeah, okay, I can turn that off now. Sorry. All right, so we're at 108.2. So the next one is going to be the Buffalo one. So that's going to be at 116.4. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and just look up the Morse code for that one. Nope. Where's the VOR? There it is. Buffalo VOR. Ooh, that's a long one. Dash dot 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 dash dot dot dash dot. There we go. Okay. And then we can go ahead and we can set our heading bug to about 287. So there's 270, so it's somewhere right around there. Good. So we got our next stations on standby. So we've got another 50 miles to go. Look at we got the lakes and everything. It's nice. It's a beautiful day for flying in the neighborhood. This has been a fun flight. I hope you are all enjoying this flight as well. Okay. So, anyways, back to Shadow of War. So now we have a single-player game, and now in the single-player game, we've talked about this. They're putting in loot boxes. They're putting in microtransactions. They're adding these things. But the problem is that they're loot boxes that directly affect gameplay, and that's a problem for me, especially in a single-player game, and even more so in a multiplayer game. And if you want to put loot boxes in for cosmetics, skins, whatever, totally fine with that. Knock yourself out. I'm not going to buy it personally. That's just me. Not going to do it because I don't really care. But now you've got a single player game whose end game is either going to be a ridiculous grind, and I'm okay with grinding to an extent, but apparently the grind is exceptional to try and get the true ending of the game, or you can spend money and open up these loot boxes to get the legendary orcs that you need in order to do these sieges. That's a problem for me in single player games. Obviously Star Wars Battlefront 2, and now DICE is trying to do damage control with it, and saying, trying to justify putting these in here because now they're not putting map packs out, so they're They say they're not trying to split their player base because now everybody will have access to all of the multiplayer maps, which is the whole draw to a game like that. And then, there's a single player campaign which they added in. It's a 6 to 8 hour campaign from what I'm hearing, whatever. But you're still splitting your player base. And I don't understand how they can't see this. Because now, instead of people not having access to maps, now you're telling players they don't have access to proper weaponry in order to stay competitive towards those who have either grinded an insane amount of time in the game or who have dumped real cash in order to unlock these things. Now, they claim that the most powerful stuff and whatever is only available in-game, not in the loot boxes. They say that now you can't just equip stuff. You have to reach the level and rank of that. Okay, that's how it should be, obviously, but you're still including star cards and weapons and things like that in loot boxes that are all random chance. Personally, if you're trying to find a way to do a microtransaction, which I don't like microtransactions at all, and I've been guilty of some of it in the past. I was a big FUT player for FIFA, and I've given up on it. And what I would do, and in my mind, and this is it doesn't change anything, I was still doing it. In my mind, I was buying the legendary edition for, or whatever it is, for $99 or $100, which came with packs, 3 packs for the next 24 weeks. Well, that's really me buying the microtransactions of the packs and the randomness of it. So I was dumping an extra $30 to get access to the packs. Now, granted, I will say that for the amount of packs and the type of packs I was getting for the cost was on a discount comparative to if I was to buy them that same amount individually. So there was an incentive to buy it, but we got to be careful here. What's this Piper doing? Okay, they are holding 7,500, so we should be fine as long as they don't. Are they holding at 7,500? Yeah. So, but I'm done supporting this type of practice, and I do have EA access. I've been playing FIFA for years, and I'm not shy to say I'm a pretty decent player. A couple of years ago I was in Division 1 in Ultimate Team, and consistently in the higher divisions, the 2s, 3s, and 4s, both in seasons and in Ultimate Team. But I'm just done. I'm not going to buy those types of games anymore. And unfortunately, this year I'm not buying FIFA 18 until they fix quite a few things. One, the gameplay is atrocious. A defense is an absolute joke in the game. So, and what they've added, other than updated rosters, isn't enough for me to warrant buying the game. In fact, I'll probably end up just waiting until it comes out into the vault in EA Access in January or February of next year, and just stick with playing FIFA 17 and trying to enjoy it that way. But yeah, this microtransaction stuff has to stop. Now, if you were going to do microtransactions, and again, they're tapping right into the addictive component of gambling, and it is gambling when you're doing these loot boxes. First of all, you're not told what the odds are of getting a rarity, the rarity of the cards. They tell you, for example, in FIFA, okay, when you open this pack, you're guaranteed 3 rares. Okay, well, unfortunately, that's not necessarily players. That could be 3 rare contract cards or whatever, or a jersey or a stadium. It's not players, which is really what you're after. And then you also don't know the drop rates of the higher level players. So what's a Ronaldo? What's a Messi drop? What's a Ibrahimovic drop? What's a whatever drop? You're not given those. And so they are tapping directly into the addictive component of the human brain, and that's how they're generating the massive amounts of revenue that they are. Now, take a look at something like Rockstar with GTA Online. Their method of doing microtransactions is a little bit better in my opinion, and here's the reason why. There's still a significant flaw with it, and I'll tell you that as well. In GTA Online, which I like to play, I play that quite a bit with some of my friends. I haven't played it recently. I know they had the new DLC pack that came out for doing smuggling. So you're flying planes and smuggling cargo or whatever. And of course, all their DLC is quote free. But in their instance, you're trading real cash for in-game currency. But then you get to dictate what you want to buy with that currency. There's no randomness associated with that. So I can now take that $3.5 million and buy a plane, a warehouse, a car, an office building, whatever you want. So at least I have say in what I'm doing with the virtual currency that I've purchased. Now, the problem that Rockstar has had, and the reason why I have bought one shark card the entire time that the game has been out. One. And the only reason I did that is because I did feel like I was getting a lot of money, or a lot of playtime and value for the game, and I wanted to support the developers, so I did buy one shark card. One. And I think it was the $60 or $50 one for like 3.5 million cash. I did that once, and that was several years ago. I haven't bought a shark card since. But here's the problem. The amount of money you get per dollar is nowhere near what it should be to buy items in the game. In other words, the items in the game are worth way more than the shark cards that you're buying. Here's an example. Several years ago, they came out with the yacht. Now, if you wanted to buy the yacht and upgrade it and all of that stuff, it was going to cost you about 10 million in-game dollars. Well, the highest shark card that they have is, I think, for 8 million, and that costs you 100 US dollars. So, in other words, you're saying to buy a yacht, which is nothing more than another house, if you will, has no functional advantage at all in the game, will cost you more than $100. Or you're going to have to grind endlessly to get $10 million to buy something that's basically just a house. So the model that they're using I like better, because I could buy what I want for the game without the randomness component. But the problem is the amount that you're getting is not scaled properly to what the items cost in the game. So you're still running into the pitfall. Now, I think the $50 shark card is like 3.5 million. If they tripled that value, let's say they made that 10 million. Now we're in the realms of it being legitimate reason to go and buy shark cards. And I think people would buy more shark cards if the amount that they were getting allowed them to buy multiple things for a reasonable amount of, real currency. Or they'd have to lower the amount that it costs. I don't think they would want to do that, because then it could be easier to get the items without spending the real the real cash. So if I was Rockstar, and feel free to comment below if you think I'm wrong on this. I would leave the way in which you're earning money in-game the same, leave the cost of the items the same, but I would significantly bump up the amount of money that you get for purchasing cash for in-game use by like 3 or 4 times the amount. That's how I would do it. You know, I could then spend $50 and be able to immediately enjoy Smuggler's Run, all those things, give me another way to make money in the game, and then in another year put another $50 in if I'm still enjoying the game and I find value in the content in which you're providing me. Now, here's the problem though. I still don't think that that should be in a competitive multiplayer game. I just still don't. GTA Online is kind of, yeah, you're online, there's players out there that'll kill you and whatever, but I don't feel like it's a true multiplayer in a competitive nature, much like a Call of Duty or a Battlefield or a Battlefront. And I think that they need to, for those types of games where it truly is a competitive game, microtransactions for gear should be disallowed completely. I think that there's other ways that you could generate revenue with the game. Personally, I'd rather see the map pack version come back and utilize that. That's just my opinion. And do the season pass, but allow all player progression to be based solely on your ability to play the game and how long you've played the game. So what really irritates me is that we're now seeing microtransactions that are not strictly cosmetic now sneaking into our single player games. And I love single player games. I love them. I loved The Witcher 2. I mean, I played Mass Effect 1. I have Mass Effect 2. I've only gotten through part of it. I really want to get back to playing that. It just, really good single player games are a joy for us to play, and it's something that I don't have to worry about. I can pick it up, put it down, come back to it. There's, like with The Witcher Witchers 1, 2, and 3, I loved all of them. The stories were great, progression was great, and CD Projekt Red did it right. When you buy a DLC from them, it's money well spent. You're getting a good value for your money. When you're buying like a DLC for more story content, like you're getting another 10 plus hours of story content for, I don't know what the DLC was going for back in its prime, but it was worth it, But that's just that's my little rant. It's kind of sad to see where gaming is going, and I'm kind of content with not buying any more AAA games unless I see a significant change in their marketing scheme, and for them to stop trying to take advantage of the youth and getting them into that addictiveness of gambling, because then that can have implications later on in life as well. Is this going to lead to more kids being involved in casinos when they're eligible, or in the lottery? It'd be an interesting study to do and see how this gambling aspect of video games with microtransactions in these random loot boxes is impacting the human brain. it would just be it'd be just interesting to see, like doing MRI studies on brains and seeing how their brain is firing when they're opening loot boxes. You could do an active MRI, and you could see what areas of the brains are lighting up, and we could do some more testing to see, is this becoming in the realms of addiction, and then what happens to these people as they move on in life. So I mean, for me, I mean, are these people going to be, when they grow up, are they going to be just spending all their money on these types of loot boxes and things like that? Or are they going to be responsible and look at saving things? I mean, I can tell you, my wife and I are on a very strict budget right now because, just had a series of events that happened, and we've had to cut down on our spending. So I'm not buying any new games because we need to save money. That's discipline. That's being responsible. We don't carry any debt at all, other than like the house mortgage, which a financial person will tell you that's an asset. Okay. But, are these tactics that are being used going to significantly impact our youth later on? That's the question that needs to be, I think, explored. So, well, we are about 3.5 miles out. Okay, we can pull, oops. What the? There we go. Okay. And this is our last turn because we're going to head to the Buffalo one. So we'll wait till we're about 1.5 miles out. We'll make our turn. We'll switch our frequency, see if we pick up the DME. And then we'll start looking for our Buffalo airport and contact them about landing. That'll be the next thing to do. So we're almost there. And so we're going to switch to our heading bug, which I already had set, 287. There we go. We'll make our turn. We'll switch our DME up, and we picked it up. Let's listen to the nav on that. Yep, that's the exact one that we have. So we have that dialed in. So we will go ahead and set our OBS needle. And we'll switch back over to the nav radio. There we go. Perfect. And that's only about, so we need to see if we have nearest airport list. And we're looking for K Buff. Because, yeah, I'm buff, man. Nope. I did not see it there. because we're not that far out. Because again, this is our last turn coming in. So yeah, here's where we're coming into, and we need to get in contact with them so we can find out where we need to land. Let's try this again. Nope. 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 Rochester International, no. Nope, still not picking it up. I'm gonna decrease our, well, pull back. I'm gonna decrease us to about 5,000. Lower the throttles down just a little bit. Come on, K-Buff, where are ya? Just trying to read all these numbers, and sometimes you can skip over it and miss it. Nope, still not there. Considering that we're only 25 miles out, I'm surprised it's not showing up. We're almost at 5,000, so we'll increase our throttle back up a little bit. Buffalo Lancaster, that's good to know. We're getting close to Buffalo. Alright, let's try this again. Wonder if we can dial in 120.5. No. Let's see. I mean, we're only 20 miles out. There it is. It's finally.
Buffalo Tower, Beach, Kilo, Juliet, 7881 is 23 miles east with Charlie to land. Beach, Kilo, Juliet, 7881, Buffalo Tower, entered right, traffic, runway 5, altimeter 2992. Entered right downwind, runway 5, Beach 881.
Okay. So, I'm going to pause this for a second. So we are Buffalo, Niagara, so runway 5. So we're going to come in this way and land there. Now do this. Do they have ILS? Because it would just make our job a little bit easier. Buffalo, Niagara, runway 5. They do, 108.5. So we will do 108.5. There we go. And we are now going to start making our turn. Pull this out a little bit. Ooh, we're pretty much right there. So heading, we're going to drop our altitude as well. Go to about 2,500. We will go ahead and put our landing lights on. Let me just pull up this airport diagram here. Runway 23. So that's not the one. We want to come in up here, because this one that we're seeing here is runway 32. Runway 32. Runway 14. So we're seeing the ILS for runway 32, the glide slope there, but there is none for 14. That's a GPS. Okay, so that means we need to come in through here. Here's runway 5 right up here. Okay. So we're going to come in to this one right here. In fact, I'm going to actually increase our altitude back up to 4,500, which is right where we're at right now.
Buffalo Airport information, Charlie. 1456 Zulu. Wind calm. Visibility greater than 20 miles. Sky conditions, few clouds at 5,000. Temperature 2.4. Altimeter 2992. ILS runway 5 in use. Landing and departing runway 5. VFR aircraft stay direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions. Advise controller on initial contact US Charlie.
Okay. Yeah, that's runway 32. That's right there. Yep. So we're going to go past this Charlie airspace, make a right turn because they wanted us to enter on right traffic approved. I should look and make sure that there's no aircraft coming in this direction, which there's not, so we're good there. So yeah, so we are almost done, fellows, ladies and gentlemen, I should say. And hopefully we can have a nice smooth landing. Everything is looking good. And this is where I typically rely on my GPS. If we look off to our right, we can probably see, yep, there's the airport right there. And we do have the ILS frequency dialed in. And once we get out about here, we'll zoom out. Once we get to about here, we'll make a 90-degree turn. In fact, I can get that set up right now. Because the autopilot will hold this current heading right here. And then we'll start to decrease our altitude. We'll go to about 25 or 2100 feet, and we'll pick up the localizer, and hopefully we have a clearance to land, which would be wonderful, without aircraft coming in and colliding with us, because that would be unfortunate. That would make me sad after all this time that we spent flying. Not to mention it would kill us, so that would also be doubly sad. But everything's looking good. Alright, we're out of that, so I'm going to drop our altitude down to about 2800 for right now. Pull back on the throttle. A little bit of turbulence right there. It's okay. He did say, yeah, enter right traffic. Okay, so we did. I just want to make sure. Ooh, bumpy. Bumpy on this descent here. Oh, what's going on here? Switch back over to our heading bug here. Okay, we're almost ready to make our second to last turn. Let's go out a little bit further past the Class C. I want to make my turn like right about here, so we can come straight in here. It's coming on a heading of 330, thereabouts. Just want to make sure to don't see any major land obstructions in the way, because we don't want to hit those, like any hills or mountains. There's some antenna right there, but we're clearly past those. Looks like there's a Boeing that is on final approach.
Buffalo Tower, American Pacific 5500, west 11 miles southwest, inbound ILS, runway 5, approach.
American Pacific 5500, Buffalo Tower, fly straight in, runway 5, altimeter 2992.
Fly straight in, runway 5, American Pacific 5500.
Yeah. Okay. There's Boeing 737. Yeah, so he's got to be the one that was just talking about landing. Alright, we're going to go ahead, make our turn. 90 degrees. Just make sure that we're checking our surroundings, making sure that we are not going to hit anything. So we are relatively low to the ground because of these hills right here, but there's the air. I think that's the airport right there. So he should definitely be able to land and clear.
American Pacific 5500, cleared to land, runway 5.
Cleared to land, runway 5, American Pacific 5500.
Okay. Turn just a little bit to the left here. I hope you guys have enjoyed this flight, talking. The thing I enjoy about it, for me, it's relaxing. It's a way to just express myself, get my thoughts off my chest, see if anybody comments, and engage in those, and then we can have more topic discussions, things like that, later on. Just make sure there's no other aircraft coming in on the left side here. No, it looks like we're okay, so we should be
Buffalo
good
Tower,
to land.
Pacifica 3777 is 7 miles southwest, inbound ILS, runway 5, approach. Pacifica 3777, Buffalo
don't see that. I'm looking. Well, we'll see what happens here.
Pacific read 777, go around. Going around. Pacific read 777.
Maybe.
Pacific read 777. Contact Buffalo approach on 126.15. American Pacific 5500. Turn next taxiway.
So he landed.
126.15. Pacific read 777.
I'm going to line us up, and then I'm going to have...
American Pacific 5500, contact ground on 121.9er.
121.9er for American Pacific 5500.
Just going to get ready. If that's Niagara Falls right there. There's the runway. All right, and we will turn our approach on. Lights and stuff are good. And now it's just watching the glide slope. And hopefully we can make a nice smooth landing. So that'll involve just watching the throttle. And we also got to get some clearance to land. All right. There's that 737 that I guess was had to go around. I just got to wait for the tower to give us the final clearance to land. And then we should be good. So let's see how this works. But we are lined up. The approach is taking care of that. We're starting to come down a little bit on our glide slope, which is good. alignment is coming into play here. You'll see, I mean, we want to be heading basically right in there. Pull back the throttle just a little bit. But we are now just about aligned. We are on the glide slope right here. So we'll just have to watch our altitude and just manage our throttle as we come in.
Beach 881 cleared to land. Runway 5.
There we go.
Cleared to land. Runway 5. Beach 881.
Coming right into Buffalo. Don't need any of that. Lineup looks good. A little bit more throttle. Get our gear down. There we go. Get that out of the way. Just want to stay right on the glide slope here. Which we are. Let's drop the throttle just a little bit. We are pretty much good to go on the landing. I think I'd rather be a little bit high on these buildings here. I don't want to hit one of these buildings. Once I clear this other office building in front of us, I'll slow down. And turn the autopilot off. Didn't get that down quite as smooth as I would have liked, at least the front gear. But well, thank you for joining me on this flight here.
881, turn next taxiway.
There we go. And as always, we will do an instant replay of that. Wasn't too bad. I was afraid I was going to pick up some of the airspeed there. I thought I'd landed good with my rear wheels, but I did drop the nose a little bit quick because I was afraid I was going to be picking up too much airspeed and I didn't want to bounce on the runway, which I don't think I did. So let's just take a look here as we come in. But one I don't think was too bad. It was a little bit smooth. I didn't drop down, which was nice. So then, yeah, we're just going to see, I kind of like hovered a little bit too much there and then dropped the nose. Yeah, so it wasn't too bad of a landing. I mean, we made it safe. We navigated. We did VOR navigation with this, which was awesome. And had some good discussion as well. So subscribe to this video if you're enjoying this tour around the United States. I'm having a lot of fun making it. Comment on the discussions that we've had. I'd like to get your points of view on it. Is gaming heading in a bad direction, and what's the solution to it? Is it gamers speaking with their wallets, or is it developers listening to gamers, or or are we just going to be doomed to have this forever put into our games? So leave some comments in below. And until next time, this is your captain signing off.